Okay. Careful, girls. Alright, so I wanted to talk about how I got into draft horses and got started with learning the whole process. And I think for me, explaining the story, my mind kind of works off of like a timeline. So really to kind of backtrack, and my first kind of experience with horses and goes way back to when I was a kid. And you know, we would just kind of show up to the stables, and you know, they have all the horses ready for you. They'd be saddled up and everything like that, and you just rode the horses. So I did that many years when I was a kid, and my mom absolutely loves horses, and that's kind of where it all started. And then I actually had a pretty crazy experience with horses while I was a kid. We were trail riding, and careful, girls. The horse in front of mine, there was a kid on that as well, and that horse did not like my horse, and it kicked my horse. And we were just kids. I can't remember how young we were, but they got into like a kicking match, and the kid, like the horse ended up going up in the air, and that kid fell off the horse, got stepped on. I stayed on my horse. We ended up going over like a hillside, and that was pretty scary. I mean, I stayed on, I held on, and the parents came down, like my mom and dad come running down to get me, the staff and everything, and they kind of, careful, girls, walk. They had to get me and the horse and get us back up top, and that kid was hurt, and I ended up riding my horse all the way back to the barn, and they put me back up there, and they're like, you're all right, you can do it, like, ride it back to the barn, because they knew I'd probably be scared of horses from that point. And I don't know if it really bothered me, but I think it kind of did. And I did some horseback riding after that, and we did some trail riding, we did some cool, I remember this one, I think we had draft horses, but I was still young, I don't remember completely, I'd have to look at some pictures and see, but we did this cemetery tour, and then it was like through the battlegrounds up in, geez, where were we? Oh, I can't think of where we were. On the other side of Pennsylvania. Completely drawing a blank. But we rode through that, and that was so much fun. And we don't even think we had a guide. Like, they just gave us the horses. You put this thing on that was a recording, and you just listened to it. And so that was pretty neat. And then I think from that, there was a couple times my friends had horses, but I never really took care of a horse myself. Like, I helped them clean stalls here and there, but I didn't really know the full extent to it. Go ahead, girls, you're good. It's okay. I didn't know the full extent to really caring for a horse yourself, so that was all new to me. And then also while I was a kid, we always came up to Pomatuming, and pretty much the Ohio side is Amish country. So you've seen the Amish horse and buggies. You'd always see them in the fields plowing with the horses, doing chores with them, doing hay, and that was just super cool to see. And every time, my mom would be so excited. Every time we passed the horse, she'd say, look at the horse, look at the horse, and she gets so excited all the time, every time. She still does. She just really likes horses. Careful. Walk. Girls, walk. This is the first time I'm trying to talk the whole time while I have them out, so should be interesting. And they've only been around this path one time. So after kind of that background of just learning a little bit about horses, trail riding, but not really saddling my own horse and none of that, and just seeing them, and the other part, I was lucky enough to go to Lancaster, PA, and I stayed with an Amish family, and that was really where I learned about how to run the greenhouse and microgreens and all the aeroponics, things like that. So that was awesome experience. And we got to go for like be around the horses, and they were just buggy horses, but you know, you got to be around them and just like be more close with them, because I had never been around like a buggy horse up close and personal before, so that was kind of that first experience there. And then fast forward to kind of where the farm comes into play. Just being up here, like we're 10 minutes from Palmatuming, so we ended up picking a farm right where I was at my whole childhood. So being around, like the road I live on there's just Amish homes all throughout the road. So like you see the horse and buggies going down the road, it's a daily. And then I kind of got really interested in like seeing how they farmed with the horses. Like that just started to fascinate me. And then I started watching YouTube videos, and then looking at like a couple people, they were English with the YouTube videos, they weren't Amish. So then realizing that, oh, you don't have to be Amish, which is silly, but I literally thought that only Amish worked with the horses, the draft horses, to like farm with them. I didn't know that if you were English you could do it too. Like I thought that was just an Amish thing. So after learning about that, and then I was like, wow, the horse-powered farming and just like how the land and stuff like that is so less of, like, gets less of a beating with the horses compared to using a tractor. Careful, girls. So that was kind of like, I wanted to leave less of an impact on the land. And then also as like a backup, you don't know what in the world's going to happen at any point in time. So like, what if you can't get diesel fuel? So that always was a thing that I thought about. So I was like, well, I think the horses would be a good fit all around, and I just wanted to learn how to drive them. So from that point, I started researching where do you go to learn how to drive horses. So I went out to Montana. I was out there for a while, and I stayed with Doc Hamill. So that's where I really learned how to drive horses. And it's kind of funny because the first time I ever drove a horse was the first time I was ever actually on a buggy. So it was a single horse. Yeah, his name was Brisk. He's a Fjord. So a single horse and like a marathon cart. So it sits up a little bit higher. And that was my first experience trying to figure out how to balance on a cart while driving a horse. So it was very interesting, and after that I was just hooked. Like I wanted to learn so much more about it. And then when we got into learning more about driving a team, I only had Lincoln at the time. I didn't have a team of horses. We're gonna go one more lap around here. Get them through this. So I didn't have a team of horses, so Doc thought that it would be better for me to learn about driving a single horse and training a single horse. Careful, girls. So I didn't get to learn all of the team stuff. I got to ground drive the team, but I didn't get to do a lot of the farming stuff with the team. I didn't get to hook them to any carts or anything like that. Didn't know how exactly to hook the lines. Like we just got to line drive. And the first team of horses I ever line drove, those were Suffolk Punch horses. And the Suffolk Punch is actually a rare breed, and there's only so many of them in the world. So I have my eyes set on getting a team of Suffolks at some point, and I'd like to have a team of Percherons. I'd like to have 2 teams, so that is kind of the goal I set for myself with teams, and be able to rotate them so you don't have them getting extremely tired out the whole time. Careful. Whoa! We're gonna give these girls a little break. But yeah, I thought it'd be really awesome to learn how to drive the horses, farm with the horses, and that's pretty much what got me started in a little bit of the timeline. And these 2 in front of me, we got Ziggy on the left, Rose is on the right. So they are one of my Amish friends, and he is remodeling his barn. So I'm boarding them for him while he's remodeling it, and in turn he's training me to drive them and coaching me through it. Like, he's been so good at teaching me everything and just really encouraging me and like walking me through it to where I feel comfortable. Because going from driving one horse is completely different to driving the team. there's just so much more horsepower, which seems like it's silly, oh, just 1 to 2. Like, there is such a big difference, and just the feeling the lines and then the way you steer them and stuff like that. And that was just something that took a little more time to get used to instead of just jumping into it. And you gotta learn how to harness them. You gotta learn how to just hitch them to all these different eveners, and then you hitch them in the front to that neck yoke. And there's just so many pieces to the puzzle. And then you have to learn how to drive the sled behind them. And that's just one piece of equipment. Then you have the manure spreader that I've been working with. Then you have the forecart, which they're attached to. It has 2 wheels and the tongue in the middle. So that one, they can move a lot faster. Like, the sled doesn't have any wheels on it, so they have to really pull this thing. And then whatever load is on it and stuff like that. So there's different pieces of equipment. And then just kind of getting experience with that, because he farms with his horses every day. So there's definitely an awesome opportunity just to have him teach me, and then in exchange for boarding the horses, and then I get to care for them and, you know, spend more time with them, bond with them, so that they trust me driving them, because a lot of it is trust, that I'm not going to steer them into something or make them do something where they can get hurt. So it's definitely neat working with the animals and the horses. For me, it's so much more fun driving the horses than sitting on the tractor. Let's get these girls up around this bend, and then we'll start talking some more. Ziggy, Ziggy, okay. Good girls. So when you have the tractor, for me, that thing is just so bouncy. I guess I don't weigh enough to keep the spring and the seat down, because it'll bounce me so much that it bounces me off the seat and the tractor shuts off. Over countless times, it gets really annoying. And then the other thing I noticed, the more I sit on the tractor, the more it hurts my back. Careful, girls. I'll let him get up this little bit of thing. Walk. Walk. I had some injuries, so the back issue sitting down always does bother me, but I definitely noticed it on the track. Ziggy. Walk. I was trying to straighten out her line and caught a little bit less tension. Definitely noticed that aggravates my back. So with the horses, I get to stand up a lot. Careful, girls. And I think another thing for me is the focus. Walk. Girls, walk. As bad as it sounds, whenever I was disking the field on the tractor last year, or the year before, whichever year that was, I caught myself playing on my phone. So I was text messaging, I was on Facebook, I was scrolling through news feeds, and I just was so bored sitting on the tractor that it was no fun for me. So with the horses, I am a lot more, I don't know, focused, I guess, and to me it's a lot more fun doing that. I would rather look forward to driving the horses than to basically have to sit on the tractor. Like, there's just not, it was not fun. Walk. And no, we are like a mixed use farm. I mean, yeah, we're going to use the horses, but I'm still going to keep the tractor. And I think at some points there are perks for having both. Like, just for instance, winter, the tractor gets stuck, and I bury that thing up to the axles, and then I create these giant ruts where the cows have to straddle to get over them, and that's just putting hay out there. And then you got to fix it in the spring. So then when I take the hay out with the horses, we barely have a trail. I mean, you see the little indent from where the sled mark goes, and then other than that, you have their feet. But you can, I'll see if I can take a picture of it and somehow put it onto the video at some point. But you could see, like, I got my truck stuck in the mud. Then you can see where the tractor went past it. Then you can see where I took the horses through. And it looks like little stages of, like, doot, 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 like little steps, kind of. So it is just interesting. That is the impact that all the weight has on the land. Ziggy, careful. Walk. Walk. Ziggy's been pretty fired up the last couple times I drove him. Usually it's Rose you gotta yell at a little bit, but Ziggy has so much energy all of a sudden. Yeah, so that's kind of how I got started with horses, and I really want to continue farming with the horses and finding different chores that they can do. Right now we do the manure spreader, utilize the sled for taking hay out to the cows. You could put the manure buckets when it's too wet to get the tractor to the manure pile. I just put the manure buckets onto the sled and just drive them out to the pile and then just dump them. And the sled's pretty cool too, because you can just pick the rocks up off of the field. And on the tractor, you'd have the tractor bucket, and then you'd have to get up, climb the steps, get down, pick up the rocks, put them in the bucket, careful, and then do it all over, careful. So it was just like really annoying. Up, down, up, down, up, down. With the sled, you can pretty much stop the horses, step down a little bit of a step, load up what you're loading, and then just move on. It's so much easier. Some other things with the sled I want to do is cut up some trees. The path we just went around, I want to trim those trees, because that's going to be the path that I'm going to keep driving them through, and we're going to do some hay rides and stuff like that. And I want to be able to get them closer to those trees so that we can get back to letting this hay field grow and everything like that. And then also, so like this stuff, we don't gotta go through the wet spots all the time. Yeah, we'll use a sled to kind of do that, and I'll see if I can record a video. But you can see the path that we went through just before. You barely even see the sled lines. And if the tractor was through here, I don't even think we'd make it around this section. We'd probably be spinning and digging a hole. So it's definitely pretty neat with the horses, and it's fun. It's totally a learning curve, but I've always wanted to learn things, and always something new. It just keeps your brain focused on something else. So you always gotta be a student. You're always learning something. And definitely adapted that throughout the years, and all the different things I've got to experience and activities, and it's just been a blast. So this is a new adventure, farming with horses. I'll get this more in the book, learning, and I'll keep sharing more things and let you guys go along for the ride.